Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Denmark once again and we're going to revisit one of my favourite breweries in Scandinavia. So we are of course talking about Amager Bryghus, who come from Copenhagen, the Kastrup area of the city, and this is another beer from their collaboration series. I believe this one was released just at the start of the summer of 2017 if I'm not mistaken, but this is a beer that they did with Pipeworks Brewing Company from over in Chicago in Illinois in America. So it's called Piping Up for Peace. It comes in at 4.5% ABV and it's a Session IPA. This one is single hopped with Mosaic, which is really becoming a very popular hop these days. So really looking forward to this one. As you'll know if you've watched my channel before, I really love these kind of nice hops that give you the orangey flavours. Amarillo, Azaka, Pacifica, Mandarina, Bavaria, Mosaic of course as well, Amarillo, all of these sorts of things. I really love these nice orange flavoured IPAs. The last one I had from these guys, which was the Sigtebrod, had orange peel added to it, although I for some reason mixed up apple scenes thing at the time. I was thinking that was apple rather than oranges. I had a brain fart in that video, but I'm really quite looking forward to this one because it does have one of my favourite hops in it and I'm sure we'll get some nice orange flavours out of this beer. So a shout out as well on this one to Jesse Holden over in Chicago in Illinois. He sent me a few of the Pipeworks beers before they became fairly readily available over in the States. My favourite one probably was the Ninja versus Unicorn, and the Blood of the Unicorn was a really nice one as well. So a special shout out to him in this video, and hopefully he can try this beer for himself over in America sometime. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to other reviews that I've done, both from Amager Bryghus and from Pipeworks Brewing Company. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish and for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you, and please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you give the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Amager Bryghus first off then. So as I've told you before, Amager Bryghus are based in the Kastrup area in Copenhagen, very close to the airport in the south of the city, and these guys are probably one of the best known Danish craft breweries outside the likes of Mikkeller and Toll, and I believe they are one of the bigger producers of beer, or one of the bigger craft beer producers in Denmark who actually brew their beers there. So the brewery was established back in April 2007 by two young friends. This was Morten Valentin Lundsbach and Jakob Storm, both of whom were avid homebrewers, and apparently in school they were forced to do a chemistry and physics project together, so they wrote about the fermentation process in beers, and they were pretty much hooked on the idea of home brewing and beer drinking ever since that time. But the brewery were located originally in Tornby in the southern part of the city. The thing that they had was actually, the original brewery was down in one of these kind of basement things. It was almost a little bit like a bomb shelter or something like that, but they did have a really quite nice setup there. I did get to go and visit it for one of their summer parties, but they are relocating at the moment. This is early September 2017 when I'm filming this video, and at this particular time they are moving all their tanks and things over to their new brewery, which is a little bit closer to the airport, but they've been constantly expanding their capacity over the last few years, and this brewery I'd say are particularly well known for their IPAs. They do some pretty damn awesome IPAs and pale ales, although that said, some of the darker beers that I've had from these guys have been pretty good. If I had to pick two beers from this brewery that would be desert island beers, I guess you would say, it would probably be the Batch 1000, which is genuinely one of the best West Coast IPAs I've ever found in Europe, and also the Herr Fredriksen. That's a really good one, and that's one of their original beers actually. Some of these kind of old school Danish imperial stouts are very good. I'd say probably Amager's Herr Fredriksen, Mikkeller's Black Hole. Those are two of the kind of pinnacle imperial stouts that you're going to find from Denmark actually. So yeah, Amager Bryghus, if you're interested in Danish beer, these guys are one that you definitely want to check out. So anyway, on to Pipeworks Brewing then. So Pipeworks Brewing, as I mentioned to you, are based in Chicago in Illinois, and they were founded back in 2012 by BJ Olsen and Garrett Lewis, and the two men were homebrewers, and they met up when they worked together in West Lakeview Liquors in Chicago, and later they were educated in larger scale brewing at the Brouwerij de Strasse in Oostfleteren over in Belgium. But in 2011 they launched a Kickstarter Kickstarter campaign to raise $30,000 to start their own brewery, and this was actually founded in the Bucktown district of Chicago. But in January 2013 they won the Rate Beer Award for Best New Brewery of 2012, and as of 2015 they own a second site on West McLean Avenue where the majority of their production today takes place, and from what I understand they are constantly expanding that site. But they also introduced their beers in cans, and they will retain the original brewery to brew sour beers as well. So there's some very exciting things going on at Pipeworks Brewing Company. As I mentioned to you earlier in the video, Jesse very kindly sent me over 3 of their cans. I think it was Lizard King, the Blood of the Unicorn, and I think Lizard versus Unicorn as well. Probably Lizard versus Unicorn was the best beer out of the 3. I really liked the Blood of the Unicorn as well because I love these kind of nice red IPAs. But Pipeworks Brewing Company are one that have made a real name for themselves. They're very distinctive because of their artwork as well. They've got some really awesome artwork on their cans, much like Amager do. So this is a really good collaboration. This is one I really am quite excited to try and see how we get on with it. But that's all you need to know about both breweries just now. As I said, the websites for both of them are in the description below. Make sure you follow them on Facebook and see how you get on, because I know Amager are pretty prolific, and I think Pipeworks are always pumping out different things as well, but we obviously are quite limited in what we actually get over here in Europe. But 2 very good breweries that you definitely need to check out if you haven't already. But anyway, that's all you need to know about them just now. Let's get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So as is tradition with the Amager beers, we'll have a little read at the story on the side of this thing. So it says, hailing out of Little Village, Chicago with a strict Irish background, the McDunns had been patriots since the day the first family member set her foot on American soil. Male McDunns had been volunteering for every war they possibly could. So the day that the young Garrett turned 18, it was both expected and with a natural pride that he enlisted to fight for his country in the Vietnam War as part of the 1st Battalion, 9th Marines. As a private he was hailed through some of the fiercest battles of the war. Khe Sanh, Hamburger Hill, Tet Offensive, you name it, Garrett was there. Wounded several times but strictly alive, unlike many of his fighting compadres. Actually, he'd lost so many that his battalion was nicknamed the Walking Dead due to their extremely high casualty rate. When Garrett returned to Chicago after 3 years in hell, he was utterly disillusioned and so became a very outspoken voice against the war. He was a prominent member of the anti-war movement, and taking up music, he was famous for his long concerts for peace played on a mobile organ with a distinct Ray Manzarek inspiration. Part of his fame would clearly be attributed to the strange fact that he would always perform without pants due to severe skin rash he brought home from the war. This collaboration beer, made with one of Chicago's finest craft breweries, is named in honour of this true American patriot and peace activist. This is a collaboration beer made with Pipeworks Brewing Company from Chicago, Illinois, USA. So that's pretty cool actually. Amager always kind of find a really good way to name their beers, and it is cool with this collaboration series that they do is pretty awesome because they really kind of highlight some of the really good American craft breweries actually. And as I say, Amager are probably one of the really prominent names in Europe just now. But there you can see Garrett just kind of performing on his organ there with his pants off and things. It's really nice artwork. I love the artwork that they put on these Amager beers, of course. And there you can see, there's the standard Amager bottle cap. You can see on the back here, this is the Pipeworks Brewing Company symbol, which you've seen me highlight in a few of the other videos. Very recently, of course, Pipeworks did a collaboration called the Swedish Ninja with Brickeria over in Skåne in Sweden, where I live, and that was a really nice beer as well. So it is cool to see Pipeworks starting to make inroads in Europe, and hopefully we can get some more of their beers. I do need to try a darker beer from them actually. That's one that I've never got around to trying. But without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Oh jeez, it's not going to work. This video isn't going well. But yeah, there you are. So yeah, nice smoky opening on this one, and we'll get it out and into the glass. It's always the sod's law, isn't it, when you're filming beer videos, something eventually will go wrong. But yeah, as you can see, a nice hazy golden colour this one. As I mentioned to you, this guy comes in at 4.5%, single hop with mosaic, and the malt base in this one is Pilsner malts and malted oats, and it uses a US ale yeast strain. So yeah, it should be really cool. So yeah, as you can see, as I mentioned, this is a nice kind of hazy bright golden yellow colour. It's a really nice looking beer actually. There's a solid finger of a frothy white head on this one. I would definitely say it's white rather than cream, almost perfect white actually. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head. And just as the beer's moving out and as it was coming out of the bottle, you really can smell some of this nice kind of tropical fruit that you'll expect from the mosaic. There's definitely a nice tangerine note there, but you always get a little bit of blueberry, I find, out of the mosaic hop too, and some papayas and pineapples and things like that. So just pay attention to that when you actually bring this this beer out of the bottle. So let's see how we get on with this one then. Yeah, definitely some nice kind of tangerine oranges. Yeah, this is really interesting because the mosaic hop, I always find it gives you a little bit of an earthy note, and you can pick that up in this beer as well, just at the back, but then you've got some nice kind of floral aromatic notes. It's quite a smooth floral character you get from mosaic. And you can detect that again, there's a wee bit of lemongrass in there, but then you've got those nice juicy tangerine oranges, and it's just really weird to get oranges and blueberries together. That's one of the things I always find fascinating about the mosaic hop. But you can smell some of these other tropical fruits like pineapples, papayas, and things like that. Don't know if there's a wee bit of mango in there or something. I think it does have that kind of almost reedy note that you get from papaya. But yeah, it's a really interesting smelling beer. This, as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of your beers before you actually get stuck into them. But yeah, there's an interesting kind of malt base to this as well. You get a little bit of a kind of wheaty character coming out of it, that sort of white, wheaty bread note. You can smell a little bit of the creaminess from the oats that's in there as well, and I think there's a wee bit of a kind of biscuity note, which I guess is maybe the Pilsner malts. But yeah, that's a really interesting beer. As I always say, just take a little bit of time and smell the aroma before you actually get stuck into it. One thing I should point out about this one as well is if you have a look at the rating for this on Rate Beer, it's rated at 80, so it's not one of the higher rated beers you're going to get either from Pipeworks or from Amager Bryghus. So just bear that in mind with this one. I'm interested to see how it turns out, because I'm always convinced that Rate Beer isn't the most accurate of things, but it can usually be a fairly decent barometer. But yeah, without further ado then, let's get stuck into this one. This is the Piping Up for Peace, a collaboration beer between Amager Bryghus in Kastrup in Copenhagen and Pipeworks Brewing Company over in Chicago, Illinois. Let's get stuck in. Slanja, skål. That's really nice actually, I have to admit, I do like that beer. Yeah, I'll say straight away about this. That rating that it has on Rate Beer, the 80 I think it is overall, 79 within the style, that's wrong for this. This is better than that. So yeah, as I always say, take Rate Beer with a pinch of salt. This beer is considerably better than that. You know, this one, you can tell, and I will say to you, compared to some of the beers you get both from Pipeworks and from Amager, of course, it's not one of the ones that's going to absolutely blow you away. It's not like that. This is an easy kind of going session beer, and it does say on the bottle it's a Session IPA, so it's one that's designed to be nice and easy drinking, slightly lower alcohol than what you'd normally get. And it does that really, really well. To me, it's you know, you can talk about sub-styles and stuff all the time, but the Session IPA really is another sub-style of the IPA. You have to consider it as a completely different beer. It's one that's going for drinkability rather than being one that's really kind of focused in flavour. Although that said, a lot of the IPAs that are big flavoured ones, there is an element of drinkability in there, but this is meant to be a nice, easy kind of going session beer, as the name Session IPA suggests, and it does it very, very well. So it fills its purposes. I'd say that rating of 80 on Rate Beer is wrong. This one should be probably into the lower 90s, because it's really nice, and you've got two good breweries here that are always going to give you a good product, and they've certainly done that with this beer as well. But for me, this is really nice. I don't drink that many session IPAs because I don't actually session beers that much. For me, the whole beer thing is about actually tasting beers on the video and documenting it. I try not to drink beer apart from at festivals and when reviewing beers and things like that. But for me, this is really pretty good. So in the middle of your palate, you have what you'd expect. There's a nice little bit of a kind of bready malt there. You can feel there's a little bit of an almost grainy character just pushing its way out. There's a wee bit of that kind of slightly oaty, creamy character in there. You can feel that in the middle of your palate, and as you come forward along the kind of front fold of your tongue, there's a little bit of a kind of biscuity malt character as well. So just the malt base has kind of what you'd expect. And yeah, on the hoppy side of things, again, it's really cool because you can try the mosaic hop on its own and just get an idea of what this guy's all about. So with this one, there's a nice little bit of an earthy character. There's a very slight earthy character in the back corners of the palate. As you come further forward along the sides of your tongue, you can feel there's a nice floral aromaticity to this one. It does have a little bit of a spicy note to it in the back corners of the palate, but as it comes further forward, it just smooths out. There's a wee bit of spiciness again on the front corners of the tongue, then round the very front curve of the palate, there's a nice lighter and slightly kind of lemongrassy note there. And just behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you're going to get these nice juicy fruity characters that you expect. So yeah, with this one, with the Mosaic, you're going to expect a nice sort of you're going to expect a nice little bit of a kind of tangerine-y, orangey character coming out of this one. You can feel that right away. I want to say there's a teeny bit of an almost blood orange character that just kind of underpins that. You can feel there's something just a little bit stronger there at the very front curve of your palate, and that just underpins everything. Then the flavour progresses to be a little bit more kind of tangerine-y and orangey, and then you start to get things. I don't think it's quite mango. I think it's more a kind of papaya and sort of pineapple character, and that lingers into the aftertaste. And for me, there's quite a wee bit of that lemongrassy note just lingering there as the flavour of the beer progresses as well. So it's a really quite interesting flavour profile that you're getting from this one. And the Mosaic as a single hop, you know, it's amazing how much complexity you get out of this. Probably the most complex hops I think that you're going to come across, it's probably the Citra and the Mosaic. So if you add those two together, you get some really interesting things as well. But yeah, for me as a Session IPA, this one is pretty damn good. I really think that rating that this has on Rate Beer is harsh, because it's not, you know, this beer, Amager wouldn't brew this beer to compete with the Batch 1000, and Pipeworks wouldn't brew it to compete with the likes of the Ninja versus Unicorn. You know, it's meant to just be a nice kind of drinkable beer. This would be a very good festival beer actually. If you were doing a beer festival, this would be a good one to have as the kind of festival beer feel, because it's nice, easy going and sessionable. You could easily drink a few of these on a nice kind of summer's day, and that's what the Session IPA is all about. Of course, there is a bit of a kind of murmuring, I guess, in the craft beer world to get more Session IPAs, because a lot of these beers are big, heavy and quite high in alcohol, so there is a bit of a murmuring of people wanting to brew big flavoured beers at lower alcohol contents, and this one for me is pretty good within that category. So if you get the chance to try this, have a go at it, and the good thing about it is that it will teach you about the different complexities that you can get from the Mosaic hop. The thing that really fascinates me about this one is the aroma. You get a bit of blueberries, and then you get all this kind of tropical fruit complexity on the aftertaste as well. But a really nice Session IPA, this one. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say it's quite light-bodied, this one. It's just on the very top end of light-bodied, maybe even just pushing mid-bodied slightly. Carbonation does have a little bit of crispness to it, but it smooths out. It's got a nice oily mouthfeel to it, this one. There is a little tiny hint of that kind of creamy character, which will just be because the oats are in the beer, I guess. There's some nice hoppy bitterness to it. It's not too heavy in terms of IBUs. Some nice juicy fruity character as well, and the malt base overall is quite smooth. There is a little bit of sweetness to it, but not too much. It's more of a kind of smooth malt base that this one has, but overall it's a really nice Session IPA. Like I said, I think the rating that this one has on Rate Beer is pretty harsh. For me, it should be up around the kind of 91, 92 sort of area. I think it's kind of like that. It's certainly not one that's going to blow your head off in terms of complexity, but it's not intended to do that. It is meant to be just a nice kind of easy drinking beer, and if you like the Mosaic hop, then you'll certainly enjoy this one. If you like orangey flavoured beers, the oranges and tangerines for me really stand out on this one. That's what starts to come out in the aftertaste, along with some of these nice tropical fruit complexities. So if you get the chance to try this one, have a go at it and see what you think. And it is cool to see one of these American breweries that I was exposed to earlier than when they came across to Europe. It's really cool to see them collaborating with one of my favourite Scandinavian breweries. So yeah, really cool. The Piping Up for Peace from Amager Bryghus in Copenhagen and Pipeworks Brewing Company over in Chicago, Illinois. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Amager and from Pipeworks. It's always great to hear from you guys. So until the next time, make sure you check out my social media, all of these sorts of things, but most importantly, support your local craft breweries. If you get the chance to try this one, have a go at it, but have a go at any of the Amager beers or the Pipeworks beers. Both very, very good breweries who will give you a very, very good drinking experience. So until the next time, Slander just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Cheers.